So we were talking before on Sunday, and we were discussing some of the things that you wanted to unpack a little bit more based on last week's episode and to follow up. So take it away.
When I listened to the podcasts back during the week, I recall a lot of information. Because a lot of the stuff that we unpack here, although we might be speaking about a particular subject, it's somewhere in my head lurking, a lot of the information. So I want to revisit certain things because they're very important to understand. They're fundamental in order to expand more, to give even more of a broader understanding of certain things that we discuss in the podcast. So that's why sometimes we're going to revisit certain elements or themes or a detail, that the detail is like a very sharp detail to even see the bigger picture. So we're going to be doing that every so often when necessary. So I did mention to you that I wanted to discuss the word religion. And last week we said that in Hebrew there is no equivalent word for religion. The word dat means law. The word dati, very often you hear, oh, ata dati, are you dati? Loosely again used as, are you religious? It doesn't go. The word, a person who is dati, means law abiding. So the Torah has no words of this sort, because when you say religious, it sounds you either are or you're not. That is not the Torah. The Torah is a collective, inclusive, universal, really, set of responsibilities for a Jewish person to take upon him and herself. Was there anyone who ever fulfilled the entire Torah? No, it's impossible. Clearly, different classes. You have Kohen, Levi, this, that. We spoke about that also before. People who are obligated, people who are exempt. All right, so let's say we're all obligated to do X. Does it mean that everybody does it? No, but does it mean that the people who don't do X don't do Y and Z and ABC? Of course they do. Of course they do. I sometimes have these nice conversations with both, American Jewish people as well as a lot of Israelis, and they say, "Oh, I'm not religious. I'm not dati," and I tell them, "Yes, you are." They say, "What do you? No, I'm not. I don't keep kasher 100% or at all, or I don't keep Shabbat." And then I tell them, "That's only two things you're talking about out of hundreds of things that you can be doing. So what? You think the definition of a person who follows the Torah is only those two things? Do you eat Hametz and Pesach? No. Do you believe in claim that there's one God? Yes. Do you practice anything that has to do with idolatry and avodah zarah? Of course not. Do you commit sexual abominations that are unacceptable in society in general? No. Do you light Hanukkah candles? Yes. Do you sometimes eat in a sukkah and Sukkot? Yes, we do that. It's nice. Do you fast on Yom Kippur? Yes. Do you hear the shofar? Yes. Do you pray sometimes? Yes. Do you put tefillin? Sometimes. Do you put a talit when you go to bed? Yes. I'll go right off the bat, you fulfilled over 100 mitzvot. You want to tell me that you're not law abiding? The perspective changes. This is something that we say very often in the end of classes when people learn, let's say halacha or mishnah or divrei Torah, before people say kaddish. It's a very, very famous mishnah. I believe it's in the end of Masechet Makot that says, Rabbi Hananiah ben Akasha Omer. Rabbi Hananiah, the son of Akasha, used to say. Right? Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Israel. God wanted to lezakot et Israel. Now the word lezakot is usually sometimes translated, it's in order to deem the people a reward. Like zechut, a reward, right? But if we look at the root of the word is zach. What is zach? Pure. Right? Shemen zayit zach. Pure oil. Right? What does that mean? He wanted to purify us. He wanted us to be better with our behavior. He wanted to give us more meaning in our lives, which, and again, it's a level, in a sense, it's a level of purity. Not to stain ourselves, not to stain our soul, not to stain our minds, not to stain our actions, our articulation, our relations with human, not to stain those things in a sense. Right? Lezakot et Israel. Lefichach, therefore, what did he do? So how is it that if God wanted to purify the Jewish people, through what means? Look at the statement. Hirba lehem Torah mitzvot. He gave them the Torah and the mitzvot, but not only gave them, hirba, he made it abundant. The Torah contains an abundant amount of mitzvot. Shene'emar, as it says in the pasuk, Adonai hafetz leman tzidko. God desires in order for others to be righteous, just like him. Yagdil Torah v'yadir. He grandized the Torah and he made it even beautiful. The point is the ways of the Torah, okay, are beautiful. They're honorable. And it just tells you a very profound idea. It's not, in Judaism, it's not all or nothing. You were born a Jew, even if you became a Muslim or Christian or Hindu, you're still a Jew. You're mistaken, or maybe sometimes you are rebellious and you're doing it on purpose. Okay, yeah. But you're still a Jew at the end of the day. In other faiths, you change the faith, you're done, you're out. If a Muslim becomes a Christian, according to Islamic law, he's a Christian. He's not Muslim anymore. The same thing with Christianity. You defected from the Christian faith, you are now of that faith. You don't belong anymore here. It's over. But we're, as Jewish people, we view ourselves as citizens of the Jewish faith. Yes, if a person did something really horrific and he got karet and he's cut off from the Jewish people, he's cut off from the Jewish people from the point of view as you're not part of our nation anymore, but you're still a Jew. You defected, but you're still a Jew. And if you do want to come back, you can have that coming back to show up between you and God. As us trusting you again, that is very questionable. And usually we said, you can be among us, but we don't trust you anymore. I'm sorry, because you defected from who we are. You wanted to give up your citizenship of your nationhood. So when I speak to people and demonstrate to them that you are observant, you just don't realize it. Do you think the most observant Jew is 100% observant? No. You mean to tell me that certain people, sometimes we grandize them and we market them as saints, they never make mistakes? Of course they do. Is there recourse to do teshuvah? Absolutely, but that's for everybody. The same thing, if a person was not educated with Judaism, if a person was never really told or explained halakha, Jewish law, that person is not liable. Because the Torah is a system of education. You can't figure it out on your own. You can't, more than this, You can't make up a faith called Judaism to say I have a new faith. No, no. It's a covenant between us, the nation of Israel, and God. So that's why it's very important. And if we look at the Torah, we look in the language of the Torah, what does the Torah always say? Lishmor, to observe the mitzvot. Especially in the book of Devarim that we're about to start this Shabbat, it iterates this over and over and over and over again. Lishmor, lishmor, to keep, to observe, to observe. That's what it means. That's what it means.
All right, so then, okay.
So going back to what we said about religion, so I want to explain the origin of this word. And what I'm saying, of course, is from Chacham Faur alav Shalom, who taught this to me. The word religion comes from the Latin. Okay? If we break the word down, the prefix is re, re. Re basically means to redo something. Right? And the other part of the word, legion, comes from the word legar. Lejar, Latin, which means to bind, to tie, to bind. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Where does this come from? All right? And who came up with the word religion, which originally in Latin was relegar, to rebond, to retie. Right? The church fathers. They are the ones who introduced this coinage of a word. Okay, where does it come from? According to Christian doctrine, they believe that since God allowed his second temple to be destroyed, the Jewish people to be dispersed, sold as slaves to Rome, persecuted, tortured, disseminated, their land taken away, their statehood taken away. They're done. Squashed. It's evidence that God has broke the bond, the covenant, between him and his people. Up until one point in time it existed, the covenant, yes. Hence, the Christian faith acknowledges Jewish scripture. They call it the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. Why is it old? Because God abandoned his people. He says, I have nothing to do with you anymore. So therefore, the bond that he had with us is gone. And they understood, they accepted that the way you reach salvation, the Jewish people reached salvation, according to them, was through, of course, the bond they had with God, the covenant. If you fulfill the covenant, you have salvation. You don't fulfill the covenant, oy vavoy, you're damned. And they'll definitely use verses in Scripture to demonstrate this. Yes, it is. However, now that we have no way of salvation, right? The Father abandoned the covenant, no more covenant. How are we going to reach salvation? Not only for Jews or whatever with them, but humanity. Right? We need to retie the bond between the Father and humanity. So, according to Christian doctrine, God sent his Son, Jesus, in the flesh. In the flesh. In God's, the Father's will in the flesh is Jesus. Okay? To retie the bond. And through him, Jesus, humanity reaches salvation. Therefore, you need now a new testament, a new path of how to reach this type of salvation. Therefore, we have religion. It's retying the bond between humanity and God. And Jesus is the medium between us and the Father. That is what the church fathers coined this term to mean. Now, I'm asked sometimes, people, are you religion? Are you religious? I say, no, I'm not religious. They say, what do you mean you're not religious? You know, you keep this. I go, I'm observant. What's the difference? I go, huge difference. Huge difference. To know, because if we're going to say Judaism is a religion, then we just equate it with every other religion. It's not. It's not so much about the practices that we do, because others have practices too. They do. There's things they do, there's things they don't do. These things they believe, these things that they don't believe. Okay, and good for them, based on their own tradition, fine. Right? But no one, not one of them, ever claimed to have a national covenant with God, which is fascinating. All other faiths based themselves according to what one person said. Not one of them ever said that we have a covenant with God. The God of our people spoke to our ancestors. No, none of them claim this, which is fascinating. Okay? So our faith, again, is based upon an agreement that we have with God. It's a set of responsibilities called mitzvot. They're legal. Jewish law halacha expands on how to perform these mitzvot, and as well as throughout the course of generations, things changed, we adapted, the law adapted, etc. And here we are today.